Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here, and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. For today's video, we're going to focus on the subject matter of undeniably masculine fragrances. These are fragrances that I think, no matter who's wearing them, men or women, the vibe of the scent is that of a masculine vibe. And what does that mean? Basically means if you smell this scent in the air and you don't see who's wearing it, who would you picture in your mind is wearing the scent? With these, I think you're most likely going to picture a man. Now, obviously, this can vary based on your cultural experiences, maybe where you come from in different parts of the world. If you come from a different culture and different smells are associated with masculinity, then this can obviously be different for you. But I'm obviously going to base it off of my own experience and an overall one for the American culture, if you will. So I got 10 fragrances here that I think are undeniably masculine fragrances, and let's get right into it. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you do like this content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. All right, guys, first one's gonna be coming from Memo Paris, and this is gonna be African Leather. Memo Paris, African Leather. So, if you know Memo Paris, at least to my knowledge, every fragrance is pretty much marketed as unisex, and that's because they just want whoever to buy the fragrance. They're not trying to have one or the other purchase their fragrances. If you like them, they want you to buy them. That's no different with African Leather, but this is, as far as I know, still their most popular fragrance by far. What do you get from this, just in case you're not familiar? This is going to be heavy with the cardamom and cinnamon spice profile, a little bit of a rose in here. There is some leathery notes here, but it's actually kind of in the background. There's almost more ambery and woody in nature than it is leathery, but you do kind of get a little bit of a leather vibe. But yeah, spicy, leathery, woody, and kind of this rich opulent rose, tying all of that together. Very popular fragrance from the House of Memo. I absolutely love this stuff. This is actually one of my first fragrance discoveries when I just first kind of got into figuring out what else was out there outside of the normal stuff you see in the department store. Before I even wanted to start a collection, I had discovered this scent. So I knew I wanted it, but I don't know why it took me almost 2.5 years to buy it, but that's neither here nor there. In my opinion, this fragrance literally has the vibe of a black guy in the 70s with a big afro, carpet on the walls in his van, and he's blasting some Cuban music or something like that. My wife has the same thought process. I've even seen other people that I do not know make that comparison in like comments on YouTube videos if this fragrance was featured. So clearly a lot of people have that thought process, and it's always a man, not a woman. So I think even though that's a pretty interesting, vivid picture of what this fragrance reminds some people of, at the end of the day, that is a masculine image. So this fragrance, in my opinion, undeniably masculine. Once again, from Memo Paris, this is African Leather. All right, guys, next one's coming from Roja Parfums, and this is going to be Burlington 1819. Roja Parfums, Burlington 1819. And a lot of fans of this fragrance on my channel, as I know, and this one is a beautiful citrus-based masculine fragrance. It smells so freaking good, mixing with that the citrus profile is kind of a grapefruit, rindy grapefruit kind of citrus profile, and then it's mixing with this beautiful blend of cumin-like spice and cinnamon spice. I think it is amazing, and all of that is accompanied with a pretty basic base of mossy notes, woody notes, maybe a touch of musk in there, really soft wood, if you will, to the base of the fragrance. The highlight, though, is definitely the citrus and that cumin and cinnamon spice. But it smells so good. But the thing about it is, to me, this definitely carries a masculine edge to it. And I think that, to me, the thing that actually makes it masculine in the end is actually that cumin spice. Because without it, you could say it's maybe a little bit leaning closer to unisex, but slight masculine. With that cumin introduction, in my opinion, that kind of takes this one over the edge and makes it fully masculine. That is my opinion on it. That being said, Roja Parfums, it's the same thing where many, not all of them, but many of their fragrances are kind of, marketed to be unisex. I think this one is the same. They say it's a fragrance for men and women, and I'm sure there's a handful of women out there that probably do like to wear this fragrance. As a matter of fact, there are women that do like to wear masculine scents, and they're not necessarily masculine themselves. They just like the smell of men's fragrances on them. But that being said, I think this fragrance is undeniably masculine, and it is an awesome one from the house. So once again, from Roja Parfums, this is Burlington 1819. All right, moving on. Next one's coming from Lalique. We've got Encre Noire. Lalique Encre Noire. Now, I do not know if this fragrance is marketed towards men or women, but that doesn't really matter. You know, that's kind of beside the point, because this fragrance here is very vetiver heavy, kind of smells like damp, grassy, almost muddy vetiver in my opinion. There is some light citrus-like notes in here. There is a little bit of a freshness to the scent, and I think that kind of plays into that damp grass where, you know, maybe the air is very dewy or, you know, a little bit humid, and if you will, and it kind of smells like daytime, if that makes sense, even though the fragrance is, should I say, the bottle is rather dark. But yeah, it's a very earthy combination of floral vetiver and earthy, damp, grassy vetiver in my opinion. And here's the thing about it. Overall, many people probably consider that to be a masculine scent profile, but I've actually come across women before that have not necessarily this fragrance on, but fragrances of a similar family, and you know what? They kind of come across as feminine. So I don't know what the secret sauce is to make a vetiver heavy fragrance like this that's very green and woody and earthy, masculine versus feminine, but whatever it is, this one in particular comes across as masculine to me, and I'll have to do some research on what maybe makes a similar style fragrance a little bit more feminine in nature. But overall, to me, the vetiver style is mostly masculine. Once again, from Lalique, this one here is Encre Noire. Next one's going to be coming from Francesca Bianchi. This is Etruscan Water. Francesca Bianchi Etruscan Water. Now, in my opinion, this fragrance is 100% masculine. Not an ounce of femininity in this scent, yet it's marketed to men and women. And, you know, there's probably a handful of women out there that have no problem wearing this. But from my experiences, this is a men's scent. Why? It's very much a modern play on a Chypre fragrance. You definitely get a good amount of moss in here. You do get some very bright citrus, even though it's not at the forefront of the scent, more so of a spice profile at the forefront of this scent. It's very cumin-like, another thing you could see in some Chypre fragrances. It's woody. There's a little bit of resins in here. What makes it more modern is it's a little bit richer, a little bit sweeter. The mossy element is not quite as dry. It's not as edgy, if you will. There's some smoothness to this scent, but at the same time, there's some heavy, very aggressive notes. Very aggressive ingredients used in this fragrance. When it dries down, kind of loses a little bit of the spicy edge, and that heavy woodiness really starts to come out. It even comes across a little bit leathery and slightly animalic even at some point. So that's not going to be for everyone. But all that being said, it really reminds me of the classic masculine gentleman's fragrance that is of the Chypre style, and it's just a modern play on that. So for me, this smells like a man, in my opinion. So once again, from Francesca Bianchi, this is Etruscan Water. Next one is going to be coming from Tom Ford, and this one here is Tobacco Oud. Tom Ford Tobacco Oud. Now, Tom Ford in general, particularly with these private blend fragrances, same thing. They market it to men and women. What is it, the signature line? There's some variances with those, although, you know, people of both sexes wear those fragrances as well. But in my opinion, I think with these private blend fragrances, usually the masculine ones and the feminine ones are pretty obvious. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. There's a handful of ones you could say are unisex, but in this one in particular, I think this is 100% masculine. What are you getting from this? You're getting a little bit of a whiskey, spicy tobacco. The tobacco is a little bit edgy. There's kind of a smoky oud in this as well. A good combination of patchouli and sandalwood, which really makes the dry down very desirable in my opinion. It's more so the opening of this scent that could be a little bit touch and go for some people with that whiskey spice profile that it has. But in my opinion, this fragrance here straight up smells like a guy wearing a leather jacket. Kind of a bad boy vibe, if you will. Willing to wear a suit, but throw like a leather jacket on top of it. Sophisticated, yet mysterious at the same time. Masculine image is what I get from this scent. Nothing about this fragrance makes me think of a woman. So once again, from Tom Ford, this one here is going to be Tobacco Oud. Next one's gonna be coming from Le Labo. This is Tabac 28. Le Labo Tabac 28. Now, every time I talk about this fragrance on the channel, I always talk about the setting that this fragrance gives me in my mind. Less about the smell, more so about what kind of vibe this scent is. It's a place, in my opinion, and that place is a very fine cigar lounge with top shelf liquor available. Not some offshoot kind of cheap one where the cigars are like crusted leaves on a dry fall day. Very good upscale cigar lounge where you can get some top shelf booze there along with it. Because the fragrance smells like tobacco leaves soaked in rum, a little bit of a cardamom-like spice profile, a little bit of a smoky, woody profile overall to kind of add to that tobacco vibe. This fragrance smells like a man who is celebrating a successful quarter or something of that nature. Now, I'm saying it smells like a man, but go to the other description I gave, which is the upscale cigar lounge with the top shelf liquor available. Most of the time, if you think of that setting, particularly if you've been in a place like that, who do you normally see in there? You normally see men. In particular, middle-aged and up men. The youngest guys in there are probably in their late 30s. If I walk into a place like that, which I have done before, usually I might be the youngest guy in there unless there's somebody working there, which is not typical of these places. So this alone paints that picture in my mind, is why I associate this with being a masculine fragrance. Shout out to the 1.2% of women who watch my channel. If you happen to be a woman who enjoys something like that, that is totally fine. But overwhelmingly, that is men enjoying an environment like that. And think like cigar aficionado, who's on the cover? It's usually a man. So once again, from Le Labo, this is Tabac 28. All right, next one's going to be coming from John Varvatos. This is going to be Vintage. John Varvatos Vintage. So the very, at least what I perceive to be inspiration for this fragrance with the name and even to some degree the bottle look is a play on the masculine scent of a man. Aromatic fougere is kind of the direction this one is going. Slight barbershop style fragrance. And frankly, just presented in a little bit more of a modern way where it's a little bit richer, a little bit sweeter, a little bit smoother overall, not as rough around the edges. You get a bright citrus spice-like feel with this scent. You get some very clean lavender, kind of playing into that shaving cream vibe. You get some suede-like leather notes. You get a little bit of a woodiness from this scent. And again, there's a touch of sweetness that is ramped up in this one over what you probably would get from the more classic version of an aromatic fougere, even though if you look at the note breakdown of many of those fragrances, they have sweet notes in them, but you don't really pick them up. So those are a little bit more rough around the edges, a little bit more edgy, where this is smoothed out. And that whole profile was, the scent of men for, really a generation even when I was growing up. Barbershop fragrances may have been kind of on their way out for, the younger generation in terms of what was popular, but they were still very much at the forefront of what a lot of people were wearing. Not so much these days, but that style of fragrance is still around, and frankly, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And this fragrance is just giving you a modern interpretation of that, and that is a traditional classic men's scent. So once again, from John Varvatos, this one here is Vintage. All right, next one's going to be coming from Amouage. This is going to be Beach Hut Man. Amouage Beach Hut Man. Now, this one here actually kind of wears the same way as Vintage. It's kind of like an aromatic fougere, except it's not an aromatic fougere in nature, but it behaves like one, which is why I really, really love this scent. Was my scent of the day yesterday. Boy, did I enjoy pulling this one back out because it's kind of been on the shelf for a while. You're getting very edgy, spicy mint with this fragrance. A good woody base to it. It's a little bit green overall. And boy, I love the way this stuff smells. It really does behave like an aromatic fougere. It kind of has that clean, green, aromatic freshness to it, if you will. Even kind of a cleanly, not really soapy overall, but it does have the cleanly nature to it. It just feels like you are clean when you are wearing this fragrance. But again, the actual notes in here don't really match up with an aromatic fougere. There's also some resinous features with this. I think it does feature a good amount of myrrh as well to kind of give some gooiness to the scent. But overall, this is just a fragrance that most people are going to get their nose on, are going to think like, yeah, that's a masculine scent. Interestingly enough, Amouage has man versions and woman versions of a lot of their earlier releases. Not something they're really doing in the current day and age under the newer direction that they're in. But this one is in that older style where there's actually a man version. I think there was a woman version of this. I don't know if I will ever be able to find it or get my nose on it. I'd be curious to see the take on it. But one thing's for sure, this one has the masculine edge to it. Anybody who's familiar with this scent is probably going to agree with me. So once again, from Amouage, we've got Beach Hut Man. All right, next one's going to be coming from Creed, and this one here is Green Irish Tweed. Creed, Green Irish Tweed. So, I mean, this one here is a classic at this point. Well, not at this point, it's been a classic. As far as I'm concerned, a fragrance from the mid-'80s that is still going strong to this day. Man, this stuff is just so freaking good. What do you get from this scent? A very kind of zingy, zesty lemon kind of feel. Very clean, aromatic nature to it. I do believe there is lavender in this as well. It has a little bit of a woody green nature to it, and kind of almost has this fresh cut grass kind of characteristic to it. Smells great. Anytime I have smelled this scent profile, it's always been on men, to be fair, typically on older men, but that's totally fine. Even on them, I'm like, you know what, the stuff just smells great. I love it when I wear it. I love it when I smell it on others. This is just simply a classic gentleman's fragrance DNA. So I think for most people, that's just kind of how they're going to perceive this fragrance. They're going to perceive it as a masculine scent because that's kind of who's known to wear it. Granted, I'm sure there's some women out there that love to wear a fragrance like Green Irish Tweed, but for most people, masculine scent DNA. Once again, from Creed, this is Green Irish Tweed. All right, guys, and to round out this video, we got one from Azzaro, and this is going to be Pour Homme. Azzaro Pour Homme. Tester bottle, that's why I have no cap, just FYI. But I've been talking a lot about modern interpretations, reimagining of aromatic fougères. This here is a classic gentleman's aromatic fougere with all the hair on the chest, with all the edginess, with all the thorns poking you in the side from this scent. This stuff is peppery to the max. It is very, very rough, if you will, very aggressive, very hair on your chest kind of fragrance, but it's very, very clean too. A lot of pepper, a good dose of very spicy lavender, a collection of woods. There's probably some green notes, almost like a pine barky woodiness to the scent. Listen, most guys are going to say, man, that smells like my grandfather, smells like my uncle. I don't want anything to do with that. And you know what? Frankly, you would not be wrong, because these are the type of fragrances that generation wore. And the thing about it is, I just love fragrances like this. I actually want to go on a buying spree at some point where I just buy a lot of those classic gentleman's fragrances. You know, you can get a lot of them and they don't cost that much ultimately, but at the same time, I know they're not going to be fragrances I wear all the time. I just have an appreciation for them. Whoo, yeah, that is powerful. But yeah, I figured if I was going to talk about undeniably masculine fragrances, you're going to have to throw one that is a real true classic, in the sense where there was definitely no sense of sweetness in men's fragrances in general. That's the case with this one, in my opinion. You know what? It's even a little bit powdery, kind of picking up on that as well. Just an interesting touch. You know, I don't wear this fragrance that often, so every time I smell it, I kind of pick up on new things. But yeah, one thing's for sure. Classic gentleman scent right here. Very edgy, very aggressive in its scent profile. These are the things we typically associate, at least here in the States, with masculine scent DNAs, and that's the case with this. So once again, from Azzaro, this is Pour Homme. Okay guys, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below, what are some fragrances that you would consider to be undeniably masculine. The chance of anybody thinking that those fragrances are something that a woman would wear are very, very low. And if you're familiar with the fragrances I talked about in this video, do you agree that these are scent DNAs that could be considered undeniably masculine? Would love to see what you guys have to say. So thanks again for watching all the way until the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.